episode number 14. We're talking about masculine and feminine energy. If you're a woman and someone has told you, well, you're being too masculine, you need to bring out more feminine. Or if you're a man, you're being too feminine, you need to be more masculine. We're going to talk about that and what that means on a deep level of your psyche. Welcome to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. We are redefining relationships to guide you to greater love, more success, and living your purpose through the latest research in neuroscience, Jungian psychology, and Eastern wisdom. Get ready for another inspirational episode of Creative Love Radio. Hi, Rob. Welcome to another show. I'm so excited about this. It's a great topic. I know it's one of your favorite topics.
One of my favorites. We're going to go deep this time.
Ooh, hang on. We're talking about Jung's concept of the Anima and Animus.
Right. And, it's controversial because, and especially at his time, and you can imagine in Victorian times, saying both male and female have both male and female aspects on their psyche. And it's still kind of misunderstood and misinterpreted what he meant by that. It doesn't mean that
you have a man inside of you.
Right, or that we're necessarily bisexual or by, gender or whatever. He was talking more about the psychology of the feminine aspect in kind of the archetypal, mythological, emotional sense, and not just the social aspect of how we see male and female roles.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. A lot of when people think about femininity and you need to bring more feminine in your life, and of course, right now women are coming to power, so it's really important for us to understand our place as women in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going beyond that, more than just a social sense, more than just allowing yourselves to be girly or allowing yourself to show your sexuality and those type of things. We're going deeper with this in really, like you said, the mythological ways our psyche works with the feminine and masculine principle. So we have both. We were born actually of both the X and the Y chromosome were involved.
Mm-hmm. Right. And if we think about our conscious mind, its counterpoint is the unconscious, right? Our personal unconscious mind. That duality Jung saw as playing out this masculine and feminine role.
So the conscious, what we're conscious of is one aspect, and then what we're not conscious of is the other aspect.
Right.
So if we're consciously female, that means the other part of our other half is masculine, but it's unconscious.
Yes.
But also driving a lot of our decisions and our psyche, the energy of the psyche.
Right. In Jungian psychology, if you are unconscious of something, it still has an influence on your mind and on your life, but you're not aware of it. You think it's coming from the outside, right? Or you think it's, coming from other people or situations external to you.
And so for a man, he's masculine socially on the conscious level, and then unconsciously, his psyche takes the feminine role, but not in a feminine social sense, but more of the aspects of femininity.
Right.
So that would be, so let's talk about what's masculine and what's feminine.
Yeah, I think one of the simplest ways to understand the anima, which is the man's feminine aspect in the psyche, is the muse, right? So if you think about the conscious mind playing out a masculine personality as a man, all that is represented by that feminine sense of emotionality, of the unconscious, of the night, of intuition,
emotion
is represented by his muse in a sense. She brings inspiration. She brings that connection to nature, to dreams, to his unconscious mind, in essence. Now, it is kind of encapsulated or embodied. All those energies are embodied in the muse for the man. In essence, that's his anima, his soul. Anima translates as soul, actually.
So when a man is integrated or has access to this part of himself, he can be very creative and balanced, emotional, kind of with the balance of his logic without being overly dramatic. Or like if he's not conscious of it, what happens is that he becomes really kind of like a spoil. What's that? It kind of has a temper tantrum a little bit, or anger spurts. Moody,
moody, temperamental, kind of a drama queen, if you will, because all those elements are being repressed, but they're still coming out somehow.
You know, this actually reminds me of a lot of the women that I work with. Sometimes they'll tell me they'll go on a date with a guy and they won't be interested in the man, and then he becomes kind of moody around it and like kind of personalizes it and almost like a child, like kind of acting like, oh well, fine, and you know, kind of really like, I don't know, that kind of childish response. And they're like, what happened? You know, like, why is he being such a baby about it? And it's because he hasn't connected with his muse inside, his that aspect of himself. And he's looking for you to fulfill that. And for you to be the source of his emotions and all that. And so the moodiness is that almost like that frustration his psyche is experiencing in wanting that connection, but thinking it's in you versus in himself.
Right. So a more mature way of the man experiencing his muse, his anima, would be to channel it into creativity or into work. Creative work doesn't have to be just artistic. It could be business. But there is that connection. Then the highest form, according to Jung, is to integrate that anima consciously to where it's not unconscious anymore. It is brought to the surface in a sense, but you understand that it's a balancing between the conscious and the unconscious mind, that it's giving you a better sense of yourself, more of a wholeness. So could you describe what that would mean, like in a common terms? Obviously, we're simplifying it, but integration simply means becoming aware of something, not only intellectually, but emotionally. Having like a direct experience of his soul, basically, right? Exactly. And so a lot of times we have people have dreams, they connect with this part of themselves, they express or tap into that creative muse with art or music. Something that's even if they're a woodworker or a construction worker or something like that's creative, and being able to like bring that forward. Right. And understanding that sense of intuition and emotionality as being very much a part of ourselves, not expecting the woman to fulfill that role for us as men. Right, because as men, we need to be fathers. We need to be gentle with our children. We need to understand, be nurturing as well. It doesn't mean we're being feminine. It means we're being men that are whole and balanced. On the other side, for women, what is the counterpoint? It's the animus, the spirit in the woman's psyche. So the woman has a conscious attitude of feminine, and then the unconscious takes the role of masculine. And since the masculine is spirit, it's it's kind of flipped, right? You're reversed. And if you look at the yin and the yang symbol, it's like the black and the white with the little dot on each side is really representing that balance. And so for a woman, she's consciously emotional, like she shows her emotions, she shows
her intuition. Can be very creative. She shows her relationships. Has that feminine aspect, and not in the girly sense, but just this types of intuition and the psyche, the components of that. And then the masculine, the spirit, is really that. Think about it as like the driving force. Think about the sun shining down on the earth. And the sun is like this beam of consistent light, and it doesn't have any creativity to it except just force of energy. And that force of energy goes onto the earth, the feminine, or Mother Earth, and then the flowers come up, and the creativity happens in the earth. And it is not an accident that women actually came up with farming. If it wasn't for women, we would be still hunting deer. So you see the masculine is more that going hunting, and the women are more the cultivators, right? So you need both. You can't just go out and go. You can't just go act. You need the creativity to go with it. So it's the balance of logic and creativity, of emotion, and that the cultivation and creativity to have the energy to move forward. And the spirit is really that life-giving force. So that's what she seeks when she's looking for a man. A lot of times women are looking for that force, that kind of consistency, that strength, that kind of yielding of the sun, that shining sun. And he looks to her for that creativity and intuition. So if you're not conscious, you're going to just basically look for that in another person. But when you're really conscious and you're conscious of both aspects within yourself, you're going to be attracted to someone who's also balanced. So it doesn't feel like they're robbing you or like, kind of enveloping you and needing to pull from you.
Easy for you to
all
say.
Your creativity, or actually give you the job of dealing with the emotions in the relationship.
Right. It is very much a balancing act that's going on internally and then is reflected in the kind of relationships that you attract. So, some of the questions are, is the animus for the woman, we call him the inner Adam, is the inner Adam the counterpoint to the man's muse? Mm-hmm. Right? Is he bringing inspiration into the woman's life as well as, the muse, the inner Eve for the man? What do you think?
I think yes. But I think when you're in every relationship you get into, even if it's one date or one instance online, they're all reflecting a part of your psyche. Everyone, no exceptions. Every single person is reflecting something about yourself. And if you say that's not me, it's a part of you or aspect of yourself that's not conscious.
Right.
So when we bring, like for you, I think you brought out a lot of creativity, and I brought out some things we complement each other, but I needed to have my own source first, where I'm not overly codependent on you to give me all the things I need for my own sense of kind of equilibrium.
Right. Yeah. What happens when people project their anima or their animus, their inner Adam or inner Eve onto their partner, is that it does become overly dependent and kind of frustrating, because you're expecting this other person to fulfill those creative needs or those emotional needs or that inspirational need from the external. And that's not really what's going on. Like you say, you have to find it within yourself first and reconnect there. Then you can share it with this other person. And that other person also serves as a counterpoint, as a kind of a representation of that internal balance that you have. Mm-hmm. Instead of you depending on their presence for your stability, for your inspiration. There's a lot of talk about the goddess and bringing in the femininity. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, women need to identify strongly with their divine power. But in Jungian psychology, really that would read as they're kind of going in reverse. Yeah. Because their task is really to identify deeper with their animus, meaning their inner Adam, their masculine source. Not as saying, we're going to be more masculine, but in the sense that that will give them more balance.
Well, if you think about the masculine, think about it as her power, right? It's the spirit, the power in her to the energy, right? To move things. You need that movement to create. You can't just create in a stagnant, fixed place. You have to, the creativity and the force of spirit works together. So if you're cut off from that spirit, you're going to be dependent on other things to give you that. And I think that a lot of, especially the modern women, the contemporary women, as you would say, they use that, look for that spirit in their corporate job or their, money, like if I could just be good, my career, and that becomes basically their muse, their masked man muse is their career, and that becomes their stability. But then another part of them is like aching to be creative and express that creativity. And it's almost like they sold their soul to this external masculine. And so what we want to do is we want to bring that back, find a way to connect with our own source of power within us, and then we can decide, we can be creative in our jobs if we want to stay in our jobs and maybe move higher up in the corporation if we want to, or in our respective fields, or we could start realizing there's a different purpose. But until we balance that out, we're going to be looking externally for that sense of power, that consistency, where a man already feels like they're looking for to spice things up, I think. No,
I don't think it's about that. I mean, a man needs to be in touch with their true nature, and the way we do that, or the only way we can do that, is to be in touch with the inner Eve, basically the anima in us. That's what's called soul, and soulfulness is the only way we can be in love. Really, if you're not in touch with your soul, it doesn't matter how great the woman is and how much she loves you. You can't feel that. You can't reciprocate that. You have to be in touch with your own soul.
And so that's actually a really good point. Although I think of that as spicing things up, as being in touch with your own soul instead of just living a very linear life, just kind of being more creative. But a lot of women, and I know for me when I was single, I would feel very rejected if someone didn't want me back and didn't see me for who I thought I was. And it comes back to that. Like if you're a man who's not in touch with his own soul, is not going to see you in that way. And if he's not in touch with his own soul, there's probably some kind of hesitancy or resistance to going there. So if there's a hesitancy or resistance to going deeper within himself, why would he go deeper into a committed relationship or a long-term relationship or an intimate relationship with someone else if he can't even be intimate with himself? So the question is, why would you attract someone like that?
Right.
Because you're not intimate with your part. So it's like the more you can go within there, you'll see that.
Right. And we're not necessarily saying that you have to be complete to get into a relationship.
No.
Because relationships really are the university of life. They're going to teach you a lot about yourself and where you're at and how you see your own soul if you're a man, and how you see your own spirit if you're a woman. The anima and the animus, the inner Adam, the inner Eve, right? They show you this because we are a mirror to each other. The kind of people that we're attracted to and that are attracted to us, they like you say, they're like puzzle pieces. We're like puzzle pieces. We fit somehow. And it's not always conscious, obviously. It's at that deeper level, at the soul and spirit level, that we fit like that. We recognize each other unconsciously, and therefore there's that strong projection, that strong attraction. If we know that part, then we can learn even from past relationships, because we can look back and say, what was going on there? Why that particular person? And what was the lesson there? They're showing us something about our own internal inner Adam or inner Eve.
So every person you meet is reflecting an aspect of your own relationship to your deeper self. So when you meet someone, you're meeting your deeper self, or you're reading the limit of how close you can get to your deeper self. And when we say, like, get in touch with it, it's more like being open to understanding what's unconscious, how to bring that unconscious, make it conscious. That's Carl Jung says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll think of its fate. So if you don't make your inner Adam or inner Eve conscious, it's going to pick partners for you reflecting how close you're allowing yourself to be. And they're going to just repeat over and over again. So one really great technique that you can do to start, we do a lot of visualization, but just go into a nice relaxed state and ask to meet your inner Adam or inner Eve. You know, if you're a man, inner Eve; if you're a woman, inner Adam, or your Anima and Animus, whatever term you want to use. And you allow the impressions to come in, and you're going to see how you respond to this part of you, this visualization that shows up, and it'll give you something to start with, to see what is my relationship with my inner Adam? What is my relationship with my inner Eve? How is that reflecting in the relationships I've been getting in my life?
Yeah, that's a good start.
And then also your dreams. You can look at the men that show, or women that show up in your dreams.
Right. In Jungian psychology, the whole idea is individuation. That is becoming yourself, your higher self, not your persona. Your persona is a kind of mask of your personality. It doesn't mean we neglect or deny the mask, but we understand its nature, that this is about kind of going deeper to who I really am, right? That balance between flesh and spirit. As you proceed inward, the first task for the hero, as he or she go on this journey, is to face the shadow, face their own shadow, right? In literature, this is facing your demons, or right, kind of going through that turmoil, that dark night of the soul. After you get past that, then you start to integrate the inner Adam or the inner Eve, right? You face your deeper challenge of, how do I get in touch with my soul? How do I get in touch with that spirit within me? How do I find the muse? How do I find that enlivening and quickening spirit that is going to give me something much bigger than I could possibly dream as a little person, as a little persona, right? And that then takes us to the higher self.
So if someone does that visualization right now and they haven't done the shadow work, what will tend to happen is that you'll see basically your personal patterns from your personal history reflected as a symbolic relationship with that inner Adam and inner Eve at first. And it's almost like it creates a veil around the spirit in us. It's like the shadow of our personal history, the limited mind that we have, covers our beautiful, purest sense of who we are. And so the more, it's not a dark thing or bad, it's just almost like a misperception, because we think we're just this little human being. So all those misperceptions, misunderstandings of who we are, are surrounding the truth of who we are. And so the deeper we can go within ourselves and go beyond that, the closer we get to the purest part of us, and that pure connection to the inner Adam or inner Eve. And then the relationship reflects that. Now, people can be in a relationship and work with the shadow, and then it brings the other, if both of them do the work, they'll be closer. You know, they'll understand themselves and understand their spirit or their soul, and it makes a beautiful thing. And other times, if you're single, you do the work on your own, you understand yourself enough so that you can see the inner Adam in his pure form and have a relationship with your own spirit that reflects in love.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we often speak of it in this kind of linear form, but we know it's not linear. The inner Eve, inner Adam is always working unconsciously, obviously, because we're always being attracted and attractive to others. Those are the projections of the inner Adam. the inner Eve, right? The Anima Animus. We're always kind of relating to her or him unconsciously. And we see that counterpoint in others. Mm-hmm. And we think, well, she's out there, right? She's not in me. She's, this woman that I saw that represents my inner Eve, my soul. And
I need to possess her.
Right.
Right.
But what it is when nature or the mind kind of makes us fall in love and we have that strong projection, it's a calling to go inward, right? To find our own soul.
So when a relationship doesn't work out and you try to capture them, possess them, they fall away. It's a calling to answer the call but to go inside and find it.
Right, because if you notice what love does when we're smitten by love, we start to get very romantic, right? And we start to think about poetry and music and nature, and it feels very transcendent. We are back in the Garden of Eden in a sense. We are back to our primal nature, and everything feels luminous. Magical, and the songs that we hear at that time kind of get engraved in our mind because we're in an altered state of mind. Physiologically, it's a very different state than what we normally experience. There's all these hormones and neurotransmitters being activated, and we are literally in an altered state of consciousness. So it's beautiful to us, and we want more, right? And if we want more, the way to really get more is not to possess, because we know that possession kills love. It destroys a relationship in some sense. It's more of that going inward and finding it within ourselves and sharing it.
It's more of a sharing than a possession.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I'm whole and I'm going to share my spirit with you.
Yes.
Versus I want your spirit. Give it to me now. And it really is you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be completely enlightened to be in a relationship and have your inner Adam like perfect and shiny. You're going to have patterns from, you're just being human. But it's the more you know about the spiritual part of yourself and your true self, really, we call it your true nature, the more you can actually be in that relationship without being pulled and tossed around in the drama and getting triggered by misunderstandings and projections and things that happen in the relationship and make stories up that they're running away and they're going to leave me or they're not as interested as they used to be. Those stories will stop happening and you'll just be really able to communicate without fear and connect. Right.
And so for a lot of people that are kind of pining for their ex and those kind of situations, this is a useful way of understanding it. That those elements are within you. It's not about him or her out there. This feeling, this attachment, this sense of longing and love is for your own soul, for your own spirit. So I told you we were going to go deep.
We're going deep. And so really just remember that the relationships you have in your life are reflecting your readiness to relate to your inner Adam or inner Eve. And the inner Adam or inner Eve is a readiness to relate to the opposite sex. So when we say ready to relate, it means that how open are you to relating? And so look at your dreams, do a visualization, notice the patterns that are showing up in the type of people you're attracting. And the first step is take responsibility and say, what is this showing me about my mind? And you'll start to see things you haven't seen before. So we hope you enjoyed this topic. It's very deep. We'll probably bring it up again in another show, but thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next time.
Take care. You've been listening to Creative Love Radio with Debbie and Dr. Rob. For more information, visit us on our website at creativelove.com.